Uh, I'm Ben Jacobson, and this is my senior portfolio. All right, so I've been at McClatchy for 2 years. My first 2 years, I attended Reed Academy, which is a private school for dyslexia. Basically, it helps you teach about, or it helps you learn like how to read better and how to basically perceive words for dyslexic kids. So the first thing I want to talk about is my TED Talks, which is about mental health. And basically, after I'm done with high school, I'm gonna try to go into a program that helps me become an X-ray technician. So the first TED Talk I have is why it's important to take mental health days. Basically, the TED Talk talks about how it's easy to get overstimulated by school and how people with mental health can get overstimulated a lot easier. So, if you have acceptable grades, at least, and your parents are okay with it, they said it's basically beneficial to take days off and just reset your brain, and that it really doesn't harm you, it more helps you than anything. My second slide or TED Talk is why it's important to talk about it. And basically, it talks about how a bunch of people can get really hurt not talking about it, and how it's hurtful to keep it inside and really not like express it. Personally, I've also had a lot of trouble with my mental health, and how when I don't talk about it, it just bottles up inside, and it just doesn't end well. So it's better to talk about your mental health. The third slide is about the silence of men's mental health and how men really aren't allowed to talk about it, and how it's more seen as less manly to not talk, or it's seen as less manly to talk about your mental health as a man, which is just completely untrue. And how a lot of men have taken their lives and killed themselves because they just weren't allowed to express it and they had no one to help them with it. And it basically talks about how men should speak out about it and how they should be more accepted for it. The fourth TED Talk is titled I'm Fine, and it's basically about people saying they're fine when they aren't fine with their mental health, and how talking about it um, basically proves that people aren't fine when they say they are. And basically, the guy that was giving the talk is talking about how he would say he was fine, but in reality, he was thinking of ways he can kill himself. The next slide is my letter of intent, and then my TED Talk planning, and then my artifacts introduction. And basically, like I said for my first article, it's about what I did in ninth grade, but I wasn't at McClatchy for my ninth grade year. I was at Reed Academy, but for that year, I read The Outsiders, and I guess I can talk about it a little bit. Basically, we didn't write anything down, but we like read it, and then we would talk about it and discuss it, and then we would watch the movie. And what happened in The Outsiders is basically just like two gangs, or one gang, and then like one popular kid group, and they kind of go at it back and forth. Same thing for 10th grade. I wasn't here for 10th grade, so I don't have any like writing to show for it, but I read The Great Gatsby that year, and I guess to go into detail about that book, it's about this rich guy who loses like the love of his life or whatever, and so he like throws parties and hoping to like she'll come, and then he dies. Third artifact, again, wasn't here, but we read Fahrenheit 451, and to be quite honest, I don't remember that book because I was barely conscious for that. So, for my fourth artifact, in 11th grade, I read A Brave New World, and basically it talks about like politics and like the struggle of like back and forth, just like it's a hierarchy basically. A Brave New World is the essay, at least the one I had to write for it. Um, it was a difficult essay, but I would say that it wasn't really the writing of it. It was more of what I wanted to write about because it was kind of complicated. For my fifth artifact, I wrote about a raisin in the sun, and this was pretty easy because it talks about black people and like their experiences with America. Pretty sure it was America, and how they're discriminated against. And I had a lot of things to say about it because that's also happened to me, and it's not a fun experience. But it was, I got to use that, and that was pretty much my whole essay. For my sixth artifact, it was an extended write on A Raisin in the Sun. Um, I didn't really. It was basically just a write about the characters themselves, and the essay wasn't hard. Writing it wasn't hard, but finding things to say about the specific characters was a little more difficult. For my seventh essay, it was Macbeth, and I had to write about power and like what it can do to a person. This one was easy because I got to connect it to other things I know. Like I connected it to the anime Death Note, which I really like, so it was a lot easier to connect power and Death Note together. So it was a pretty easy essay for me. For my eighth essay, it was opinion, and it was an opinion about um like how people feel, and it wasn't hard considering I was writing about happiness, which is something I'm more or less, I would say, knowledgeable about because, again, with my depression, um, I've had to think a lot about it, so I have a lot of knowledge about it. Not necessarily about what it feels like, but a lot about how you can attain it and like achieve it. For my ninth essay, it was the Hamlet essay. Um, and this one was about grief and loss and how handling it in different ways can lead to different things. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure in one of the things I wrote about um, grief and loss, like it can lead you to revenge, and it just didn't end up well for the person I wrote about. I think it was Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. So, the next thing I want to talk about is my post high school plans. And like I said before, I want to go be an x ray technician. And basically, the reason I want to do that is because I'm really just kind of done with school. It's a 2 year program, and then after that, it's like a guaranteed uh, job for me, assuming I pass the program and complete it, which I do have plans to do. The only downside is it's starts at 8, ends at 6, 5 days a week for 2 years. Not necessarily 2 years, like 1.5, but I'd probably take breaks here and there. In conclusion, basically, I talked about my experiences at high school, and like I said in my written portion, it's both good and bad. I have people that I have new friends that I can rely on. I have people that I can talk talk to when I need to, and basically, it was really nice to have that thing. But it was also hard to get because like I said, I transferred my junior year, so I was only here for 2 years. Most of the friends I made were already part of other friend groups, and that goes for people I wasn't able to be friends with because it's just harder to connect with people that I've already connected. And that's about it for my senior portfolio.